Welcome to Talking TEAM-CBT, where you'll hear stories from therapists and clinicians around the world on their journey and experience with TEAM-CBT.
Okay, welcome to another edition of Talking Team with Angela Poach and Daniel Herman, and we're so excited to have with us today Dipti Joshi, our guest. She is a level 4 team certified therapist and trainer located in India. Someone who's done some incredible work bringing TEAM-CBT to India, to other places, around the world. She practices there. She's a counseling psychologist, and what's also so unique about her training is she offers a year-long training program, which we're going to hear a lot more about. So welcome, Dipti.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me over.
Okay,
Super
we're so
excited to have you.
Me too.
We really, one of the cool things that you've done is bring TEAM-CBT to a part of the world where it's really kind of like resonated very, very powerfully, and in terms of, I guess, people getting clinical work, but also those who want to get trained in TEAM-CBT. So you really deserve a lot of credit for that, and we're going to hear more about that. But maybe just kind of start us off a little bit and tell us, a little bit, when and how you got involved in team, and give us a little sense of that.
Wow, that's such a nice question for me, because I would love to talk about it. I guess it all began with my listening to these podcasts. I was hearing these podcasts, Feeling Good podcast during my morning walks, and I wrote an email to David, something about what I liked about the podcast, and he read my email on the podcast, and that just felt so good to me. And then fortunately he was having an intensive training in Whistler, Canada. So that was the time I went to attend his training in Canada. That was a 4-day long training which David himself conducted, and those were my first steps in TEAM-CBT.
Yeah, and that's where I met you.
And after that, I think, yes, yeah, that's where I met Angela. She's my first TEAM-CBT companion. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then you
And I think after that it was yeah, and I think after that I really got lucky, because immediately after that Daniel Minty visited India, so I got so many opportunities to be along with him. I organized some training programs along with him, and we traveled in a couple of Indian universities in India, and we conducted some training programs over there. That's where I got myself also trained. And then immediately after that, Rhonda and Heather visited India. They were very sweet to come over to the place where I live. And there also we conducted some training programs, awareness kind of training programs. And that's where I also learned a few parts about team. And I think thereafter, whatever I learned was through all the online training programs that FGI was offering, some case consultation programs with Daniel and Matt, some programs where Jill was conducting these 6-week programs. I attended some of those. Then I attended Mike's training program, which was a 12-week program. I have attended that twice. No, I think thrice. Once as a
lots of training.
I got myself. Yeah, I just did one of the best training, I think. So I was a trainer once, and I was a learner once, and then twice as a small group leader. And I think after that, I started training some of the people in India in the same model.
Awesome. Dipti, what was it about the podcast? You mentioned, getting into team, and you took all this great training, and our listeners can find a lot of those same trainings are still going on at the Feeling Good Institute. We'll make sure we put that in the description for those who might be interested. But tell us, Dipti, what was it about the podcasts that made you interested in learning more? Because we all hear lots of different great things. There's lots of different modalities of therapy. You're a clinical psychologist. I'm sure you've had lots of training. What was it about the podcast that drew you in?
Yeah, I think that time Fabrice was host of that podcast, and I think David was describing the structure of TEAM-CBT. That was something which was very captivating for me. I think uh, it sounded very systematic, especially the brief mood survey, evaluation of therapy session. It seemed that this is a model which is very open and transparent and very collaborative in nature. And I think that was something which was very obviously expressed in the podcast. So I think that was something which I liked most.
Yeah, I also love the structure and the systematic approach. Being ADHD, I didn't think I could ever do this kind of work, but having a system, keeps me in check. And I love what you said about it being collaborative and bringing the client in, because I think that's just a really important part of therapy. I think we all think we're doing that, but I think once you hear the difference, it really is impactful.
Yeah.
Well, I was even kind of wondering, maybe, because that's so true about pulling the clients in. I don't know if you have any off the top of your head, some moment, in session or in training where you've seen how the power that it can kind of pull your clients in. So some story like that.
I think it felt very respectful to some of my clients, and that's exactly what they expressed when they would fill up the ETS, and I would take time to process it in the beginning of the session. And I started doing that even before I got myself trained, because in the show notes, David had given some of the formats of ETS, and I had made a Word document out of that, and I made my own version of it. And that in itself was so effective, because I have been practicing for more than 10 years before I got introduced to TEAM. And my clients were giving me very different kind of feedbacks after that, just processing that at the end of every single session. They felt very respectful.
It's very respectful for sure. And sometimes we get that glowing feedback, and that's good to see when our clients are making progress based on the mood surveys. But sometimes it's the opposite. I know sometimes I look at that afterwards and my heart kind of sinks when I see the scores going down, or some empathy scores that are lower. I'm curious if you've had those experiences and how you then use that in the next session.
Yeah, I think that also happened, but it always got them more engaged in the process of therapy. So that is what it helped. And it felt very, it felt very good, because they started thinking about it, that what was it that they like and what they do not like. And even if it was something that was like a negative comment, something that I may not always like to hear, so if about some of the mistakes that I was doing, I could provide them with a safe place to express that, and that felt very good to me also. It just felt very good that they are feeling safe to express what they didn't like. So it felt good on both ends, I think. So it's quite a win-win kind of a stance.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, how you're so client focused that even the negative feedback feels good, because that here they feel safe to express themselves. And I know we've all had clients, and probably our viewers have all had clients who are just really nice, and they're always smiling and nodding, and they actually are really intimidated by saying anything critical. So the fact that they can do that really resonates, that they feel connected with you, and that you are providing that safe space. And you mentioned how clients are just more engaged in the therapy.
Yeah, I remember classically one story where this client of mine, she was looking for dream analysis kind of a therapy module with me, and I wasn't trained in it. So I had told her that this is something which I don't have much awareness about, and so I will not be able to offer you that to you. And in the therapy evaluation form, she mentioned about it, that I really like that you're not beating around the bush and trying to show that you know something that you don't know. And that felt very good to me. And that I did not expect that that's what is something which is going to hold on to her, because she said that after that it didn't matter what model you're using. I just felt that I am with somebody who is not going to just do things for the heck of it. she'll do what she knows to do well. And that just felt good to me.
That's
feels so
awesome.
liberating.
So she decided to stick with you then, even though you didn't do dream?
Yeah. She decided to stick with me, and she did very, very good work, because then she said that, okay, now that I'm with you, I will try to resolve my problems the way you know. And then if that doesn't work for me, then I will try to seek for another dream therapist or whatever it is. But I think it felt very liberated to me as well, because I did not have to show something that I didn't know how to do. That just gives a lot of space to do things what you can do and let go of what you cannot.
I think that that's really something I want to repeat, is that it is liberating, that we don't have to know everything about everything, that there's referral bases, that we can network with other therapists who are good at certain things. And I know I refer out specific kinds of clients that need more empathy and more talk therapy, because some clients do need that, and that's not something I'm really good at. And I love what you're saying. It's just liberating for me not to be beating myself up that, oh boy, I should be able to help every single client that comes in my door.
Yeah, that is something which I really like about Team a lot, because that model provides me to be very transparent, and that's so appealing to me.
Yeah, well, you always come across that way, Dipti. I think that's why you're so well regarded and so well liked in the team community for that openness, that transparency. And I thought maybe I could also ask you. Clearly, you've shared with us that team has really kind of transformed the way you practice. You were practicing for a decade before, but maybe we could also pivot. And I know the team has affected myself. I know Angela also personally in so many different ways. So curious if you could tell us a little bit how team has kind of impacted Dipti as a person.
Yeah, I once again, this is such a beautiful question, because I think it has transformed me a lot. It has, I think before I got into team, I was, I think, chasing some kind of achievement, or I wanted to be somewhere on the journey. I mean, there was some destination in my head, which I think it was, I was trying to live up to some of the other colleagues which knew a lot. And I think that took up a lot of my space. And instead of that, when I got myself trained into team model, it was as if that I have reached the destination already, and that is something which is going to always be there. Like, it was kind of an acceptance that it's like a ladder where there are 10 steps above me and 10 steps below me, and I'm somewhere, which is like a journey. It's so I started thinking in this moment in time. I think that was the biggest change that happened in my own thinking patterns, I think. I became more focused in what's happening in this moment in time and capture that. And I think the team has provided with that kind of model.
No, that's so beautiful. I mean, so many of us, or think about the specifics, the 5 secrets that we can use, or some of the other tools, but of course we, can use these tools to talk back to our own negative thoughts. But I love the, very global way you kind of talk about how team has kind of transformed your life and the way you view yourself and achievements. So I think that's even more powerful than some of these specifics.
Yeah. And I also want to mention over here that the humility, like, I mean, it is so heartwarming and touching to me. Everybody who I look up to, right from David to Jill to Daniel Minty, everybody is so humble, and that really appeals to me. I mean, that's the kind of a person I would like to be, like, so that is also very, very appealing to me, I think. Nobody is having any kind of an air.
Yeah, I think
That's
that
so
drew
nice
me
to
into
see.
team as well, right? That whole, like, let's practice what we preach, where it's transforming ourselves. We're not just here to, like, not just the experts that have this, upper level, thick crust, whatever.
Yeah.
We're going to fix all these poor little patients But it's
Yeah.
transformative for ourselves, and that includes humility and sitting with open hands, and a lot of these other terms that our listeners may or may not hear, and you'll definitely learn about them as you get to know team. Dipti, tell us what's something that maybe you found challenging with team. Is there an aspect about team that you found challenging, either clinically or personally?
About team, I think I would say convincing people to understand team and accept team. I think that has been my biggest challenge, and it continues to be till date. Like, although I know that how much I believe in team, I have my own experiences with team. But because now as a trainer and as a trainer, I think I find it more challenging, because I that's, I think, my biggest passion, to be able to spread team with as many people as I can. So that's something which, when people want to know about um, scientific research based evidence for the for the application of team, and I have not been an academician ever, so I don't understand those jargons and that language which appeals to academicians. So I
Right.
think that is one thing which I find it very challenging, that how do I address those. And then when that kind of resistance comes up, typically what I do is I honor that resistance and then let go. But still there's that feeling that, I wish that resistance was not there. Not
Yeah.
always I'm able to melt that resistance.
Well, it makes sense. It's worked so well for you, and you care about others so much that here you are. You're like, what are you, look what you're missing, right? And I think there's a little part of our heart that
Yeah.
feels like, a little sad that they're missing. Even if you're trying to sit with open hands and humility, there's always that part of you that
Yeah.
cares and this compassion.
Yeah. I really feel sad because already they are spending time and energy on doing something, like they're trying to help people and trying to resolve their emotional issues. Then why not spend it in a way that it's more effective? And I think that's what, if they adopt team, they will make it more effective. I have seen that happen in my own life. So classically, if I can give an example, so um without team, when I was practicing just CBT, the stage where I used to get at with my clients on, say, 10th session, now I'm at that stage in the second or maximum third session. So it's like that kind of fast therapy happens. So I think that's the power of team, and that people are missing out who do not accept it.
Yeah, this the notion of high-speed treatment, right? This CBT on steroids is what people like to consider it, but you're saying that
Yes,
kind of as
I
you get
totally
feedback,
agree with
yeah,
that.
your skill improves, and you feel like patients are hitting their goals faster and faster. And just loving our time. I wish we had a lot more time, but I definitely want to ask you, maybe tell us a little bit, tell our listeners, about this explosion of interest of Team CBT in India. I feel like it's, one of those just countries that seems, and maybe it's a lot due to you won't say, but we'll say a lot due to you, and you're reaching out to
Yeah, for
people.
sure.
But tell us why it seems like it's been, so receptive to folks in India.
I really like the way you have framed these questions somehow, and I would love to answer that. I think uh, I have heard this also from Daniel Minty, that the Indian DNA is designed in that way. I think a little bit because of the religious beliefs that we have. We believe a lot in karma. So we believe in taking responsibility of whatever is happening in our lives. And that's very much in the core system of Indians. And that's where CBT and Team CBT connects very well, because it's how we say in our interpersonal relationship that we create our own interpersonal realities,
Yeah.
and that's very much woven into the Indian system. So, and when we present it in a systematic way, with logic, with reasonings, and also with solutions, with direction, I think that really appeals to people, and I think that's why it is so receptive.
Love that.
Yeah, it's so amazing how there's this spiritual component, and I think that that scares a lot of practitioners. But I think what's beautiful is that you mentioned karma and Indian spirituality, which is very different from my Christian background or Daniel's Jewish background. And yet here we are, all three, super excited about a modality that helps empower us to change and grow a little more spiritual in our own worldview. And David actually talked about it in our interview with him, and I think that's another aspect of team that's just so important and to express is how it's I keep saying the word transformative. I don't know another word to say it, right? It's like a whole body experience, and sounds like we're a bunch of gurus. Sounds like we're in a cult. But
absolutely. I think the concept of the 4 deaths of the ego, my God, that's such an amazing concept. Like, the special self, the fearful self, the angry self, and the pleasure-seeking self. I think all the religions are ultimately leading to that. And David has just presented it in a very nice way, which is understandable and very appealing. It's beyond words.
At the end of the day, it's all about finding truth. And so if the truth is real, it's real in all these cultures and religions and modalities. And well, Dipti, would love to ask you, I'm just looking at our time. I think we had a couple more minutes. Can you tell me what about, is there anything about team that surprised you? You listen to these podcasts and you went to Whistler and you met a bunch of crazy people like myself and David. Was there something that surprised you about team?
Yeah, I think the community, that surprised me. I mean, I couldn't believe that these kind of people exist in this world who are so friendly and so knowledgeable at the same time. It was just beyond something that I could fathom, because every time I saw somebody who was knowledgeable, they were at a pedestal, and they were kind of unreachable. And in team community, that was just not there. And that was, I think, the biggest surprise and a very, very pleasant surprise for me. Also, it was so inspiring because I would always want to be able to guide people without being on that pedestal. And again, that's something which, that model is something which team provides us, to be able to be mutual learners, even with our own students. They teach us so much. Clients, like, everybody is in this role of growth. Everybody is growing.
I love that. Yeah, and you're a big part of that. And I know you traveled to Poland and other places to be part of that. Let me ask you just like one of our fun questions we like to ask. We have so many methods that we get to. They're almost like an afterthought right after the T and the E and the A, but also so powerful. What would you say is one of your one or two favorite techniques that you really find to be powerful?
I think all the techniques related to melting away resistance, positive reframing has been so powerful for me. I think I love that concept very much. All the paradoxical techniques, I think, just opening my mind to the paradoxical component, I think that's something which appeals me a lot.
Yeah, the paradoxical, I think in my mind, I thought of like reverse psychology, which has always had like a bad rap, but the paradoxical approach is a little bit kinder and gentler and it's not about being manipulative. Tell us a little bit about what does it mean to be paradoxical?
Honoring, like, say, for example, paradoxical cost benefit analysis. So that's something which is so beautiful because, say, for example, a person wants to overcome a habit or addiction, and we tell them that, okay, let's first talk about what are the good things about your specific habit that you do not want to hold on to. And I think that's the place that we provide them to talk about something that's so much there within their system, but never got a space, a safe place to discuss, share, and accept it. I think that's very touching.
It is. Well, we're almost out of time. We have one last question, and that is,
Good.
if all the therapists who don't know about TEAM were listening right now, what's one thing you'd like them to know?
um, they should learn TEAM. I think that's a classic should statement that I make, but but at the same time, I feel that that's just a shortcut to having to make your work effective and experience fulfillment in your job. If you want to do that, that's the path.
Perfect message. Yeah, we'll allow that as one of the maybe the fourth should message type that's that's allowed there. So this has been such a joy to have you join us. You know, Dipti, as Angela pointed out, to have the three of us coming from the three different places in the world and coming together for our love of team and using it to transform ourselves and those we work with. It's just great to hear about your work and your training and all the things you've done. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll put in the show notes where people could find you for work in India as well as a training across the world.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. It was such an honor to be here and share with you my thoughts on the most passionate thing. It's like, I believe TEAM-CBT is my calling.
I 100% agree with you. I see your face is glowing as you say it, and it just warms my heart as you're speaking it, because I totally agree. Thank you so much for being here, Dipti.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Bye-bye.